Imagine working your entire life for a dream, only to wake up one morning and find it locked away from you. That's exactly what happened to one black rancher when his own land was fenced off by a homeowners association he never even joined. They claimed his ranch wasn't legal, that his cattle had no right to graze where they stood. But instead of breaking down, he found a way to turn their fence into his greatest weapon. And when the dust finally settled, he held the only key that mattered, the one that controlled everything they thought they owned. For as long as he could remember, Marcus Johnson had been surrounded by the open fields of Texas. The land wasn't just soil and grass, it was a legacy. His father had worked odd jobs for decades to afford a few acres, and Marcus carried that torch forward, expanding the ranch, building it up, and creating a life for his family. The fields stretched wide, cattle grazed freely, and the horizon promised peace. But behind the beauty was an unspoken truth. Marcus was one of the very few black ranchers in a county dominated by powerful landowners. Many tolerated him. Some quietly admired his work ethic. But others, especially the Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association, saw him as an intruder. The HOA represented the sprawling neighborhood that had developed over the years, creeping closer and closer to Marcus's ranch. What had once been miles of pasture land was now bordered by expensive suburban homes, and though Marcus's property was older, legally purchased and properly documented, it stood out like an unwanted reminder of what the land had been before developers claimed it. The HOA board, a group of wealthy homeowners with deep pockets and influential friends, decided they didn't want a working ranch so close to their polished lawns and gated drives. They labeled his ranch non-compliant, even though it was never under their jurisdiction. Then, without warning, they installed a steel fence along the only public access road leading to his land. Overnight, Marcus found himself fenced out of his own property. His cattle could wander, but he couldn't bring in trucks, supplies, or even family visitors. The message was clear. They wanted him gone. But Marcus had other plans that would turn their own arrogance into his greatest victory. At first, Marcus thought it had to be some mistake. No one had contacted him. No legal notice was served. Just a fence, a padlock, and a cold metal sign declaring the property access was managed by the Lakeside Meadows HOA. He went to the county office. Officials shrugged. The HOA claimed the road easement fell under their control, and until Marcus paid dues and submitted to their rules, he'd be denied access. It was absurd. He wasn't even part of their subdivision. Yet somehow, paperwork was twisted in ways that bought the HOA just enough time to strangle his operations. Supplies spoiled as delivery trucks turned back. Buyers who once drove in for cattle deals stopped returning calls. Neighbors whispered rumors that Marcus's ranch wasn't legit, that maybe he didn't even own the land. It was the slow erosion of reputation and livelihood, death by 1,000 cuts. But Marcus wasn't a man who gave up easily. Instead of rushing into lawsuits, which he knew could drag on for years against wealthy opponents, he did something they didn't expect. He studied. He pored over land records late into the night, tracing every deed, every plat map, every dusty signature filed in courthouse archives, and that's when he found it. A loophole so sharp it cut through the entire scheme. The HOA had indeed bought the land around him, but in doing so, they overlooked one crucial fact. The road and the gate they built still sat on land connected to Marcus's original parcel. In other words, the HOA didn't fully own the very strip of dirt they were using to trap him. So Marcus made a move that turned their arrogance upside down. Quietly, without fanfare, he purchased the small parcel of land adjoining his gate, an overlooked sliver that legally controlled the easement. And when the paperwork cleared, he didn't just regain access. He became the sole legal owner of the gate itself. The HOA had fenced him out. But now he owned the lock, and only he held the key. When the HOA board discovered what he'd done, outrage swept through their meetings. They tried intimidation, sending letters filled with legal jargon. They accused him of trespassing on his own ranch. They even called law enforcement, hoping deputies would side with them. But when the sheriff's office reviewed the documents, the truth was undeniable. Marcus legally owned the gate. The HOA had fenced off their own access road, not his. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. Homeowners who once sneered now realized their own convenience was in jeopardy. That gate, the one they thought was a weapon against Marcus, was now their lifeline. Without his permission, they couldn't access the service road that connected to the ranch fields and a popular trail system beyond. The irony stung. The same group that had worked to erase his presence now had to knock on his door, asking for cooperation. And Marcus? He didn't slam the door in their faces. He didn't retaliate with anger. Instead, he stood tall and quiet, his silence a reminder of how close they had come to destroying him. In the weeks that followed, the HOA backed down. They removed their signs, stopped sending threats, and quietly adjusted their maps. They couldn't erase the embarrassment, but they could retreat from the fight they had started. Marcus regained full access to his ranch, his cattle roamed freely again, and his business began to recover. But beyond the land and the livestock, something larger had shifted. For years, he had been the outsider, watched, doubted, underestimated. Now he had proven something undeniable. Knowledge is power, and dignity is stronger than intimidation. His victory wasn't just about a gate or a fence. It was about showing that systemic racism and economic bullying could be resisted and defeated when you refused to bow down. The HOA wanted to erase him from the land. Instead, they cemented his place in its history. His story spread quietly across the county, whispered among other small landowners who had felt the same pressures but hadn't known how to fight back. He became a symbol, not just of survival, but of victory against a system designed to keep him out. And maybe that's the real takeaway. That sometimes the greatest revenge isn't revenge at all, it's thriving where they said you couldn't. It's holding the key they tried to steal from you and unlocking a future they never wanted you to have. So here's the question. How many others have been fenced out of their dreams? Not by chains or padlocks, but by systems designed to keep them small. And how many, like Marcus, will find the courage to hold the key anyway?